All right, hi, it's Lee Tessier from eXp Realty, and today I'm here with Steve Quigley from Veterans Inspection Group, longtime friend. He's been doing inspections for me for about 17 years now. I know he got into business in '05, I got in '06, and he's been my trusted person I go to for anything inspection-wise. I get to a property, I'm not really sure on something, I'll snap a picture, send it to you. I just think of how things went back in the old days when me and you first started dealing together. So give us a little bit of your background. Obviously, you call it Veterans Inspection Group, maybe a little bit of history there. So tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. So started back in 2005, bought a national franchise back then, separated, and we went through a rebranding process in 2021.
21.
Yep. All of our guys were veteran owned, and all the guys that work for me are all veterans as well.
Great.
All of us have, pretty extensive background. One of the guys on our team, Chris, custom home builder for 20 years. I've been doing contracting work, general contracting work. We do some contracting work together, and then the other Chris has done contracting work as well for some time.
Great.
And Ellen, who basically manages our whole group and keeps us all straight. So
Good.
Yeah.
So you do multiple types of inspections, right? Give us a little bit of background on what you offer. I mean, I think of always the regular property inspection, structural, mechanical is your primary source, but you're doing residential and commercial now too. But just get a little bit there, and then what all you offer as services too.
Sure, yeah. We were probably a 60-40, 60 residential, 40% commercial. The entire gamut of residential, but we've done churches, schools, industrial complexes, and retail shops and things like that. But the additional services that we provide, we have people on our staff that are, either professionals or certified in certain areas.
Sure.
So we do radon testing. Pretty much everybody on the team is EPA certified for the radon. Sewer scans, sewer camera inspections. We have one person, Ellen, who is certified to do lead, water, and air quality testing, mold analysis.
Great.
I'm the other one for mold analysis. So we pretty much can handle almost every aspect of the transaction.
Okay, good. And the last 3 years have been really interesting, right? So the dips in the market, the changes in the market, the peaks. So I think of 2020, the second half of the year, June got super busy, really competitive market where we're seeing a lot of buyers that were waiving inspections. Now we're finally getting back to the point of, through it, there's still a good amount that we're doing inspections, but maybe 40-50% we're still waiving, unfortunately, and I know that there's been a lot of issues because I've talked to enough people at the county. So thankfully I'm sure you're starting to get busier, which is a good thing, because I never feel good when somebody buys something without an inspection unless they have extensive background in it. But let's talk about some of the things that you're seeing today. So all rehabs are great, right? All these remodels that are doing such a good job on them and so forth, that there's always some kind of issue. So let's talk about that. Are they all perfect?
No, investment properties are always a challenge. I'd rather do something that was built in 1950 and nobody had kind of gotten their hands in it. But investment properties, we're seeing one extreme or the other where they've kind of done everything and followed every proper process, pulling permits and having whichever jurisdiction you're in, come out and do the inspections, to covering up and not pulling permits and things like that. So usually if it's an investment property, we know we have our work cut out for us. Everybody can do their due diligence now. Pretty much every jurisdiction puts their permits online. So if you're buying an investment property, you can look up whether or not permits were pulled.
Or closed.
Or closed. That's exactly right, yeah. So and we can tell usually within the first 5 minutes. And I don't necessarily care if permits were pulled. If everything is done the correct way, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But
quality versus cutting corners.
That's exactly right, yeah. So everything has a date code on it, so it's easy to kind of trace back and see whether or not they did things correctly. So,
well, especially when you know what you're looking for, because when you said date codes, I'm like, all right, well, I don't know where to always look for these things. That's why I usually take pictures and call you. So we're not all experts. I'd rather use one of the things you said earlier was certifications and so forth, which let's make the clients feel better. Let them know, give a little bit of your background. So is it ASHI? What do you start?
Yeah, so all the inspectors on our team are ASHI, basically master certified master inspectors. So we've gone through, it's usually based on the number of inspections and your training. So, our team probably has done well over 16,000 inspections, whether it's, residential.
16,000.
Yeah, a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
And I want people to hear that because sometimes I hear like, oh, how long's he been in the business? I'm like, I know he's been in 17 years.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's almost 1,000 inspections a year, which is pretty extensive, right?
So going 18 to 19 years, so that one extra year helped out a little bit, right?
No,
So,
but it's a lot.
It is a lot, and we'll do builder's draw inspections for banks. So we do insurance inspections. So there's a lot of other things that we do just besides the standard resale. We do a lot of new construction inspections. Was just doing a new construction inspection this morning. And those are always fun as well. So we are all certified through RTCA, which is EPA sanctioned for the radon.
Okay.
Ellen and I both for the air quality. So there is no standard for mold analysis, but Washington D.C. put a program together, and it was mostly for like schools. So
Okay.
we went through that training process. It wasn't just an online training program. Ellen's also certified through the state of Maryland for lead and for water quality.
Great.
So everything that we do, we go through the proper channels, and it's not just online training.
The one thing I also really love about you guys is the amount of photos you take. So I just think of over the years, like I'd say to some, there was a problem from 4 years ago. It's like, hey, do you have a picture of this? Like, yeah, let me get on my file. And you got it. I'm like, great. I mean, that's how I am. I have email for 15 years.
Right.
Some of the stuff
Yeah.
I keep just in case. But I think that the way process, like people think, core values are super important. So I think with military, a lot of that background of taking pride in what you do, not cutting a corner, you want what's best for the client. Like I see so many times that you put your clients always way first, rather than like, hey, it's not about me just doing this inspection. I want to make sure that I'm giving you good quality of, let me give you all the details. Like I would always, your nickname of the deal sometimes is like, but I prefer to use somebody that's super, super thorough and extensive, and I'd rather somebody have way too much information than not enough information. Like, oh, this house is beautiful, because there's no perfect house.
No.
Right? I mean, like,
No
how many
such thing.
times,
Including my own.
right,
Including yours.
right, including
Yeah,
mine too. It was
right.
like, how many times have we been in houses? I remember a new construction one that you did. It was a 6-month-old house, and nobody lived there, and there was like 18 major things, anywhere from the sloping of the gas vent was not properly sloped. It was negative slope, so it was coming back in the house. I was like, you're putting CO back in there, dishwasher not having water, some
Right.
drains, like some of the stuff that stood out to me over the years. And a lot of people think, well, I'm buying a brand new house. It's been through county inspections. Well, there's still issues.
Right, yeah.
A friend of ours, Chris, he's buying out of state. I said, go get a home inspection. He's like, how's the builder going to feel about it? I'm like, actually, it probably saves them some money in the long run, because I'd rather fix something while it's framed.
Right, yeah.
And all of a sudden you close it all in, and now you have these issues that you could have fixed ahead of time.
Right.
So I remember him handing over the home inspection report or emailing it to the superintendent, and the superintendent actually thanked him. It's like,
Right.
hey, I'm glad that you guys did this. We can make these repairs now. So 11 months in, I'm not tearing the house apart to fix them.
Correct,
When you
yeah.
do an inspection then.
Yeah.
So
Well, for us, I mean, it's all, the military thing is, attention to detail. It's always been attention to detail, and that's kind of the way we run our business. And, the property is the property, but we like to give as much information as possible, and in regards to what you were just talking about, as far as like new construction, I mean, just because the county inspects doesn't mean everything's an inspectable item. I'll give you an example. A roof is not an inspectable item by the county, right? So, you can literally build a house and put a roof on it, and the county's not going to inspect it. Things like insulation, plumbing, electric, those are all inspectable, but not everything's inspectable.
So you're on a new construction, you're typically doing phases, right?
It depends, yeah. So there's a lot of times that we will do pre-drywall.
Correct.
Right?
I mean, that's probably, it's like if you're recommending, somebody's building a new house, would you recommend, how many inspections is it through that process?
Typically, we do 3. If somebody wants to do all 3, so pre-drywall, which we like to get in there, and it's a very tight window, basically between the time that all of your rough-ins are completed, insulation's done, and right before drywall goes on, because the insulation is one of the things that we find some issues
so you got
with
electrical,
sometimes,
plumbing,
right? All that stuff,
insulation,
ductwork and framing, So and then a pre-settlement, so right before you settle on the house, and then usually most of the warranties, most of the builders, the warranty is a 1-year warranty, and some people opt to do, we call them 11-month warranty. It's the month prior to the builder saying,
Right. It's almost like a bumper-to-bumper warranty on
Almost
the car,
the same
right?
thing.
It's always
Yep.
relay it back to. It's
Yeah.
like, all right, in that 11-month period, let's find all the stuff before your warranty's up, and then you're dealing with this crap on your own.
That's
'Cause
correct.
they were like, oh, it's a 10-year warranty. I was like, yeah, it's structural.
Structural, right.
Like
It doesn't cover a lot of
foundation.
other things, yeah. So
I think of some other ones that you did for me on new construction and the pitch of the steps.
yeah.
Like stuff that we wouldn't think about. It's like you kind of felt like it was a weird when you're walking down, but you didn't notice it.
Right.
But it was like a negative pitch back.
Right.
So some of the stuff that I noticed that you've caught over the years for
Right.
clients are like, wow, they had to rip the stairs out and put a new set in.
Right.
But I'd rather them have to do it than or my buyer have to do it.
Correct. Yeah. And look, I mean, builders are as good as their subs. I mean, it's just the way it is. I mean, there's a lot of really good builders out there, but depending on the subs and who's there representing the sub can, affect, that project.
Right.
So,
But you're a third party outside of the builder. You're not affiliated with us as a buyer agent. You're not affiliated with the builder. So you're that third party, and that's what I get to a lot of people. It's like, all right, that's such a benefit if you can do it ahead of time while
Right.
you're out through the building process, right?
Yeah, and we know most of the superintendents in the area, so we have a good
Working
rapport with them. Yeah, and as long as we're not going in and because there's a lot of companies that'll go in and point out everything that's cosmetic in nature, and that's not what we're
Right.
there to do. It's all structural
It's not the
mechanical.
blue tape because people
That's
think
exactly
like the
right.
blue tape the day before
Right.
or a couple of days before settlement that we're going to fix this this nick in the wall. This we're
Right.
talking about structural mechanical building of the house that turns into a lot bigger issue later.
Correct.
So I wish I would have done one when I built my house in
Right.
2002.
So,
but
same, right?
but anybody that's watching, this is such an important thing because new construction. There's a lot of new construction going on. We have people that are moving out of state and they're buying new homes. It's like it doesn't matter where you're at. I mean, if you're somebody buying here local, I would recommend using Steve. Right? Like I put my name to you for 16 on 17 years.
Yeah.
But I think that's super important. Is who can you rely on? Who's dependable? Who has integrity? And the variation of like, hey, when pressure's put on, your integrity's still there, not that you're wavering.
Right.
But I think that, having somebody good that we can recommend and somebody that's knowledgeable, because I tell all my agents too, as a resource, like call Steve.
Yeah.
Take the picture, send it to him. He's usually pretty damn responsive. And hey, if you have an issue, and also clients down the road, your home inspection reports are pretty extensive, right?
Right.
40, 50, 60 pages long.
Depending on how many photos were taken, right? Yeah.
But you use that as a maintenance guide too. That is a thing. So if you've bought a home over the years and you haven't done an inspection, I would recommend doing an inspection. Right. If you're going to buy a home, I always recommend. I've never told somebody to dude, don't do a home inspection,
Right.
Because it comes back and bites most of them in the butt pretty hard later.
Yeah.
So, anything else that you're seeing in today's market, or
Well, there was a pretty good time frame where people were waiving everything. I mean, including
be able to buy a house.
well and septic just to buy a house. One of the things that we're running into, we've done a lot of inspections after people have settled because they waived to get the contract, and we're seeing some. I don't want to say horror stories, but we're seeing some people that are just not very happy.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we had a couple of our clients, thankfully, that we did do inspections, but they had to go through the county, but we were listening to the county saying, "Oh my God, we want to stop rehabs from happening." And we're like, "What? How can you stop?" They said because people are not pulling permits, or when they are, they're not actually finalizing them and closing them out. And we're seeing these people that bought. They thought they were buying a nice home that was remodeled, but the corners were cut. They didn't know it because they didn't do an inspection. They just figured, oh, it's a new house. And
Right.
no matter what, a remodel is not a new house, right? Like
Not at all.
you're still original foundation and so forth, but you're trying to make it as nice as possible. And is it really nice? Yes. Do some of them do really good jobs? Yes. And do some of them do really bad jobs? And that's where I'm coming in is like, I want your input. I mean, we look at it cosmetically and say, hey, everything looks like it's good, it's square, this and that, but tell me what you think, because you're looking more behind the scenes and so forth. You're kind of peeling the blankets back and looking under the covers.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I'll give you an example. We just did one yesterday, and it was a complete renovation, complete gut. No electrical permit was pulled. All new wiring. most of it was not done correctly. None of it was brought to standard. So once you start kind of getting, and that now becomes the buyer's problem. If they
Once they
do
settle.
not, that's exactly right. And it's going to be a problem from them on the back end. And I always try to convey that, look, whatever you're willing to accept now is fine. And if you waive an inspection, that's fine. But think about what that's going to do to you on the back end, right?
Yeah.
So when you go to sell the house.
Yeah.
So
We think of like nothing's a problem till it's a problem, and people always have to have the end in mind, meaning, hey, you're going to sell this home at some point,
Right.
no matter what, you or your family. So what have you done ahead of time? So having an inspection, just knowing what you got
Right.
is always a good thing,
Yeah.
right? I think a lot of for sale by owners and stuff that have happened over the years, because again, people are just trying to buy a house. Well, either sellers didn't know they had to disclose something, or they didn't disclose it, and then they didn't do an inspection, and now what do you have? You don't know. And maybe you paid too much, or maybe you paid too little. Maybe you have enough room that you can make up for it, but you better fix the problem sooner
That's
than later.
correct. Yeah, absolutely.
So I
Yeah.
won't drag on too much longer. What is the best way for everybody to reach your company?
So we are finalizing our website right now, but that's going to be veteraninspectiongroup.com. So that should be completed within the next couple of weeks. You can call our office number is 410-688-6132, and that goes directly to Ellen. Like I said, she manages our whole group. She manages all of our schedules. She can answer any questions you have about the process. She's been with us for more than 10 years now. So,
Perfect.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks so much for today.
Absolutely.
And, glad to pass the word on.
Yep.